In this completely normal position, 12-year-old Magnus Carlsen, straight out of daycare, played queen takes a7. In this video, I'll decipher exactly how Magnus Carlsen thinks and how you can think like him too. After h6, any normal 12-year-old would simply retreat their knight back to f3. But when you're born with a name like Magnus Carlsen, you don't play retreating moves. Instead, what Magnus looked at was this king and this rook. Because after queen takes a7, if the rook takes the queen, then this is almost back rank checkmate. Queen d8 is forced, and now I'm picking up all the pieces. And I'm just up a knight here. And otherwise, this rook is simply just undefended, so whatever else you do, let's say you take the knight, then I'm just gonna take this rook, and now this bishop is also hanging. Rook b8 was what was played in the game, but it's still the same problem. This king is not going anywhere, so Magnus sacrifices his queen again! And after knight takes, the bishop dies, and now the other rook falls. White is simply up a piece here because if black takes this free knight, then white takes this free knight. And if black moves his knight, then white will simply retreat his knight. And now the two rooks for the queen, especially with the extra piece, will go on to win Magnus the game. But Magnus used the fact that this king is isolated on the back rank and this rook is undefended to look for tactics, and he found the dynamic but stunning queen a7, seeming like it gives up a full queen, but actually because of how weak the king is and because of the fact that this rook has to move itself, white is just completely winning here. In this position, Magnus with the white pieces was playing against Alexander Grishuk, who just played rook b8, and now Magnus slams his bishop on a6. Magnus looked at this position and said, why don't I just push these pawns and make some queens? Well, the reason why is because this pawn is blocking these pawns from becoming passed pawns. And so, if Grishuk did accept this sacrifice, then Magnus was simply push c6, and now there's no way to stop these pawns from becoming queens. And so in the game, Grishuk played bishop f6, and now Magnus still has the same idea of making all three of these pawns into passed pawns. So he takes on b7, and if Grishuk accepts this bishop, then c6, and now Grishuk took this pawn. Already, it's super hard to stop these pawns from promoting. But if Magnus simply played a move like c7, then suddenly rook c6, and these pawns aren't going anywhere now. So the important move is the silent killer rook c1, because this prepares c7 and stops rook c6. Grishuk played bishop takes b2, but after d7, it's all over. What made Magnus win this game is his Giga Chad mentality of not caring about material. Magnus said, this bishop, I don't need it anymore. And he was right. He does not need this bishop when he has three passed pawns that black cannot stop. He found the dynamic idea of bishop a6 and calculated every line thoroughly to make sure that he would go on to win this game and make a queen. Here, Magnus was playing against Jean-Ludwig Hammer, famous for teaching Andrea Botez.
I feel like I'm making you dumber the more you teach me.
Can we agree that we don't tell Alexander this?
Hammer plays rook e1, and now Magnus laughs in Norwegian and plays queen h5, instant resignation. The king cannot go anywhere, and so g takes h5 is forced, and rook h4 is the beautiful Anastasia's mate. Again, Magnus wasted no time capitalizing on his opponent's mistake. He recognized and knows Anastasia's mate like the back of his hand, with this knight cutting off the king's squares, and so that's why he found queen h5, simply because of his pattern recognition. He would love to get a rook or a queen on the h-file, but in this position, it doesn't seem possible until you look at this queen h5, allowing rook h4. The last move I have today, and definitely my favorite, was when Magnus Carlsen had the black pieces against Sergei Karyakin. Karyakin just played rook h7, asking Magnus if he wants a rook trade. But Magnus plays a secret move that Karyakin had never learned about in his 29-year-long chess career. He castles! With the idea being that this king now attacks this rook is no longer attacked, and this knight is put under pressure by this bishop. Karyakin is forced to lose material because if his knight moves, Magnus simply takes this rook, and if his rook moves, then Magnus simply takes this knight. If Karyakin tries something like rook h6, then simply takes, and it seems like the bishop and king is getting forked, but after king h7, rook takes g5, then rook f1 is back rank checkmate. When Magnus saw these rooks look at each other, he didn't instantly think, oh, I can take a rook, let me do it. He thought, these pieces are very loose. Is there a way that I can protect my rook and attack his rook at the same time? Well, yes, there is. All of these moves shocked me when I first saw them, but that's why Magnus Carlsen is the greatest chess player of all time. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.